Blackbeard's brutal raids. Ever wondered what it feels like to stare down the barrel of a cannon while a pirate with a flaming beard demands your gold? In the early 1700s, Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, turned the Caribbean into his personal playground of terror, raiding ships with a savagery that still chills the bones. Picture this. In 1717, off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina, Blackbeard's crew swarmed the merchant vessel Concord, overwhelming its crew in a blur of cutlasses and gunfire. They looted everything: gold, rum, even the captain's fancy wig, then held the ship's passengers hostage for medicine, threatening to slit throats if demands weren't met. Fun fact: Blackbeard braided fuses into his beard and lit them during battles, creating a smoke screen that made him look like a demon from hell. It worked wonders. His enemies often surrendered out of sheer panic. Imagine facing that in the dead of night. Would you fight or beg for mercy? His most infamous raid, the blockade of Charleston Harbor in May 1718, saw him capture multiple ships, torture prisoners for sport, and escape with a fortune, all while outmaneuvering the British Navy. Blackbeard's tactics were brutally efficient. He'd strand crews on deserted islands or force them to join his ranks, turning ordinary sailors into reluctant pirates overnight. Humor me here. If Blackbeard showed up at your door today, would you offer him your Netflix password or hide under the bed? His reign ended in a bloody showdown, but not before he'd etched his name into pirate lore as the ultimate terror of the seas. The Barbarossa brothers' Mediterranean mayhem. What if I told you that two brothers once turned the entire Mediterranean into a pirate highway, plundering empires and defying superpowers like it's no big deal? In the 16th century, Ottoman corsairs Carnage and Barbarossa ruled the waves, launching raids that made Blackbeard look like a rookie. Starting around 1516, they targeted Christian ships off North Africa, capturing vessels laden with spices, silks, and slaves in lightning-fast strikes. One of their bloodiest escapades was the sack of the Balearic Islands in 1529, where Heiser's fleet descended on Minorca, slaughtering Spanish defenders and hauling away thousands in loot. They didn't stop at ships. Entire coastal towns burned as they dragged people into chains for the slave markets. Fun fact: the brothers were so feared that European powers paid them protection money, essentially turning piracy into a protection racket. Think of it as the original mob shakedown. Relatable example: it's like modern cybercriminals holding your data hostage, but with swords and gunpowder. Carnage met a grisly end in 1518 during a battle with the Spanish, but Heiser carried on, even advising the Ottoman Sultan on naval strategy. Their raids weren't just about gold, they were about power, reshaping trade routes, and inspiring rebellions across the region. If you think online scams are bad, imagine waking up to pirates storming your village. Would you grab a weapon or dive into the sea? The Barbarossa legacy lives on, a reminder that pirate brutality could topple kingdoms. Sir Henry Morgan's sack of Panama. Could you picture a pirate so bold he'd march an army through jungles to ransack a major city, turning the impossible into a headline-grabbing heist? In 1671, Welsh buccaneer Sir Henry Morgan did just that, leading a fleet of privateers on a brutal overland assault that left Panama City in ruins. Morgan assembled over 1,400 men in Jamaica, then navigated treacherous swamps and mountains to surprise the Spanish defenders. The raid kicked off with a ferocious battle at the Chagres River, where his forces overwhelmed the fort, losing hundreds but pressing on with ruthless determination. Once in Panama, they unleashed hell. Homes were torched, treasures plundered, and soldiers executed in cold blood. Estimates say they carted off millions in today's money, including silver, pearls, and even the governor's wine collection. Fun fact: Morgan was so thorough that he reportedly made his men drink rum mixed with gunpowder to seal their loyalty, a twisted pirate ritual that sounds like a bad fraternity dare. Humor break: if Morgan were alive today, he'd probably be that extreme couponer who raids Black Friday sales with a cutlass. But don't romanticize him. His methods were savage, with reports of torture and mass killings to extract information. Relatable twist: it's like a corporate raid, but instead of buyouts, it's straight-up pillaging. Morgan's escapade ended with him knighted by the British for his services, proving that in the pirate world, brutality could lead to nobility. Would you risk it all for fame and fortune, or play it safe? His story shows how one raid could rewrite history. The Golden Age Pirates Caribbean Carnage. Ever imagine a time when the seas were a free-for-all battlefield, with pirates like Bonnie and Calico Jack turning every voyage into a gamble for life or death? From the 1650s to the 1720s, the golden age of piracy exploded with raids that blended cunning, cruelty, and chaos across the Atlantic. Take Calico Jack Rackham's 1720 ambush near Jamaica. He and his crew, including the fierce Bonnie, hijacked a Spanish merchantman in a nighttime assault, using surprise and speed to overpower the guards. They didn't just steal, they terrorized, forcing captives to walk the plank or face the cat o' nine tails. Fun fact, Bonnie once dueled a man to the death while pregnant, proving women pirates were just as brutal. Talk about multitasking. Relatable example, it's like those viral flash mobs, but with murder and mayhem instead of dance routines. Another notorious raid was Bartholomew Roberts' capture of over 400 ships, including a daring 1720 strike on a Portuguese fleet where he paraded around in the captain's clothes like a pirate fashion show. Humor alert. Roberts was so prolific, he might have invented the work hard, play hard motto, except his play involved cannon fire. These pirates operated in wolf packs, sharing spoils and stories, but their brutality left scars. Entire crews vanished, and ports lived in fear. If you were a sailor back then, would you join them for a share of the gold or fight back? The Golden Age ended with crackdowns, but its raids remain the stuff of legends. The Somali pirate surge in modern waters. What if pirates weren't just history books but real threats in today's world, hijacking supertankers off Africa's coast like something out of a thriller? Fast forward to the 2000s, and Somali pirates turned the Indian Ocean into their hunting ground, executing raids that echoed ancient brutality with modern twists. Starting around 2008, gangs armed with AK-47s and speedboats targeted massive ships like the MV Sirius Star oil tanker, which they seized in November 2008 with military precision. They held the crew hostage for ransoms reaching millions, often torturing them in sweltering conditions aboard the vessels. One infamous raid involved the Maersk Alabama in 2009, where pirates shot at the ship, boarded it, and took Captain Phillips captive, leading to a dramatic Navy SEAL rescue. Fun fact, these pirates used GPS and satellite phones. Blending old-school piracy with tech savvy, it's like upgrading from a wooden leg to a drone. Relatable humor. Imagine ordering Uber and getting a pirate crew instead, demanding Bitcoin for your ride. Their methods were as brutal as ever, with reports of beatings and executions if ransoms dragged on. By 2011, international forces stepped in, but not before hundreds of attacks shook global trade. Would you sail those waters knowing a raid could cost your life? The Somali surge highlights how piracy evolves, proving that the sea's dangers never truly fade. What's your take on these pirate raids? Would you have survived as a sailor or joined the ranks? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe button for more wild history tales, and share this with your adventure-loving friends to keep the pirate spirit alive.